course of 7 months, Oskar Schindler sheltered 1,200 Jewish people in his ammunition factory during the Holocaust in Berlin, Czech Republic. While there were other people fighting the Nazi Party like Magda Tolkmay, Sophia Skroll, and Zoya Kosmodemyanskan, these people had the benefit of working in well, other than his wife, Oskar Schindler worked alone. Even though he only saved a few Jewish people, what he did was still remarkable. Generations that live on show his legacy. He went from caring about money and power to spending it all and saving lives. In the 1920s, Europe was in a depression. After World War I, Germany was in hard times. They were in debt after they had lost the war. The Nazi Party was starting to become more popular in Germany too. Some German leaders agreed with the Nazis and disliked Jews very much. The Nazi Party was led by Hitler. At the age of 30, Oskar Schindler had joined the Nazi Party. He was a spy for the Germans and got information regarding railroad and troop movements. Oskar Schindler became well known and respected in the Nazi Party. This is when he got many of his contacts and connections he later used. The labeling of the Jews started with the Star of David on their arm or on their chest. The next process of bringing down Jewish people was moving them into ghettos. Regardless of what they had or were, the Jewish people moved into these terrible conditions. They were grouped together and lived in poverty. At this time, Oskar Schindler moved to Krakow. Through the constant bribes and black market goods, he got control of a Jewish-owned enamelware factory, Goetz Enamelware Fabrik. This was close to the ghetto. He knew hiring Jewish workers would cost less, so he invited the people in the ghetto to work for him. The workers did not stay in the ghetto for long. Soon they were evacuated and sent to concentration camps to work for other Nazis. Oskar Schindler was mad when all of the people left the ghetto. This caused him to lose some profit because no one could work for him. He went to a fellow Nazi who had most of his workers. His name was Omongol. He decided he was going to ask permission to have one of his main workers back to help him with something. Omongol agreed to let him have his assistant back. He and his assistant started writing out a list of people who were going to work at his new factory. He was relocating his factory to Berlin. This was his hometown. Omongol agreed if he paid money for each of those workers. Oskar Schindler said yes. 1,100 people got onto a train and started heading to Berlin. Sadly, on the way, 300 women and girls were sent to the death camp of Auschwitz. He got there before anyone was killed. Some people in charge started pulling the children off the train because they thought they couldn't work in the factory. Oskar Schindler still got the children because he said only their fingers could fit inside of the shells. He got them all out. The sign on Auschwitz says, "Work gets you free." Those 300 people were the first ones to ever get out. Oskar Schindler once received word that there was an abandoned train cart full of Jewish people. 100 people were standing in a locked train cart, freezing to death. He located the car, and with the help of his workers, he brought them back to his factory. He nursed them back to health, and they were now protected and saved by Schindler. When the Germans had lost World War II, Oskar Schindler knew he would be hunted down. His name was on a list to be possibly executed. The workers wanted to show Oskar Schindler how much they appreciated what he did. So they made him a gold ring. This gold ring was made out of the fillings of 3 workers that so kindly gave up a tooth. Also, they were concerned he was going to be caught and killed, so they all signed a letter saying that he was a good man and should be let free. All the people in his factory lived. Not a single one died. Not a single one hit, murdered, or sent to a death camp. The skills he used with flair of presentation, bribery, and grand gesture, he succeeded as a war profiteer. These things he also used to save the lives of his Jewish workers. After the war, he felt unsafe in Germany due to former Nazis' threats. He tried to go to other countries, including America, but was not allowed because he was a former Nazi. He ended up in Buenos Aires, Argentina. He tried many businesses, but failed every time. Every spring he went back to Israel to see the people he saved from 1961 to 1974. 1974 was the year he died. The 1,200 people he saved was a small number, but definitely counts. He saved every child in his factory, every woman in his factory, and every man in his factory. In conclusion, this man changed so many people's lives. He was a flawed man and died broke. Although he was a Nazi, he shows you can change. Oskar Schindler was not a good man, but did an extraordinarily good thing. He had leadership. He wasn't afraid of taking risks. His bravery is something that no one else had ever seen before or dared to try to do. It was almost like he enjoyed being sly to do as much as possible for his workers without being caught. He spent 4 million German marks to provide and bribe for his Jewish workers. The rest of his life he was broke and relied on donations and gifts of those he had saved. If he had just stuck with caring about money and power, he would have been set for the rest of his life. Instead, he felt that he needed to save those people, and that became the most important thing. Those he had saved felt it was important for him to be honored and remembered for what he did. In 1993, he was added to the Holocaust Memorial Museum. In Jerusalem, a floor of the Harry S. Truman Research Institute of the Advancement of Peace was dedicated to Schindler in the beginning of the 1970s for his efforts. His legacy is shown by the generations that will live on because of him. Most of those he had saved always wonder why he did it. Oskar Schindler once said, "The persecution of Jews in occupied Poland meant that we could see horror emerging gradually in many ways. In 1939, people were herded and shut up in ghettos, and in the years 41 and 42, there was plenty of public evidence of pure sadism, with people behaving like pigs. I felt the Jews were being destroyed. I had to help them. There was no choice."